Masterpiece Soundwave. Hey, what's up again everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, gundam.tk. Even though today I'm taking a look at a transformer from Takara Tomy MP-13 Masterpiece Soundwave. You've already seen the unbox and the parts, now it's time to check it out in all of its modes and their glory. And when Tony Chopper is finished hiding here right out of the box, you are going to get something that if you were an old school fan like me who had the old G1 toy, this really does feel like a masterpiece just from seeing it like this only. The colors, the details, the way they're going to have the decals on there, the paints, the eye color, so many things about this are right. And keeping the familiar things like the die-cast feet, it's going to look fantastic like this, and it's definitely going to have a lot of bulk and heft. But first, here's a closer look at the legs where you can see some nice yellow steps up there, some yellow seals on the side, and these parts here are going to have a key part of the transformation as they're going to swing down, and you've also got a volume dial and a switch there to turn the power on and off. On the back, you can see that there's a lot of silver and blue details, although you are going to have a lot of visible screws, something that you're not really used to with Gunpla there. You can see the gray on the elbows, and there's going to be some nice details, silver, black, and red up there on the shoulders. You can see that you're going to have some panels here that are going to pop up and down. This is where the batteries are going to go in, so you're not going to have an old school compartment, but it's going to be the gold of the actual cassette part there. That's going to look really good. The Decepticon symbol is looking fantastic. The arrow looks good. The eject button is right where his hand can actually reach it, something the G1 could only dream of. And things like the electric launcher, things are looking very detailed and very well done. And that head, even though it's not a perfect recreation of the old Destron Decepticon symbol, still looks exactly what you'd imagine the anime come to life should. Height comparison now, as you can really see, this is pretty much the difference of going from an MG to a PG if we're talking Gundam. But you've got Sound Blaster here in his re-released form, and you'll notice that his arms are going to go straight down, as are his legs, whereas with the Masterpiece over here on the left, already you're going to have a lot of things setting him apart. It is sort of cool. There's going to be a few details here, like the decals and the stickers there, that are not going to be recreated over there. But on the other hand, you're going to have all the right colors in all the right places for the shoulders and for the forearms. And under here, if you can make out the yellow, it's going to be looking good. The MP, a little bit understated, but that's not necessarily a bad thing here. 22 centimeters for Soundwave means he should tower over the 1/100th scale of Amero's original RX-78-2 here in its titanium version. But over time, Universal Century mobile suits got bigger and bigger until they suddenly didn't, and I was racking my brain to see which Gundams I should compare this to. No prize to anybody who sees why. It was the Sazabi here, 1/100th. This is also done up in its metallic finish, and you can see that he's going to take the edge in every comparison, height, width, and depth. First, for a point of comparison for articulation, yes, you've got the shoulder there that'll rotate around, and you're going to get 90 coming forward, and nothing else. The hand will pop in if you're not careful. And the leg, you can bend the knee up here 90, because that's how all our legs bend naturally. The feet just go up and down. You can rotate the hips around 90 degrees, and you could also bring them up, and you could do it off to the side if you do that up first. So what does 30 years get you in terms of articulation? Well, let's start with the hips, which are going to look a little bit wonky, although again, very familiar here just to be able to see the actual gears there on the insides. You are going to have this hip joint here. It looks like it's got 3 parts there. It is going to rotate around, and you can see that the whole thing is going to move, so you're only going to get the feet 90 degrees off to the side, and you are going to be able to ratchet this up for a 90-degree char kick forward, and you can't really go back except about 10 degrees there. And for the rest of it, you can see that you can actually, yeah, we already saw that that'll rotate out, but you can also rotate this part around, and you can spin that all the way around if you so chose. And instead of it being horribly unnatural there, what's this? It's actually going to bend like a regular knee, only 90 degrees, but it seems like it's going to be enough. And Soundwave's metal feet were famous, and they're going to be recreated here in metal, which is a nice touch, actually, to see that on a Masterpiece today. To keep those old touches alive, fantastic. What you're going to get, though, for articulation is you've got this interesting mechanism in here. So if you notice, you can see that it's going to bend this far off to the side, and you can actually twist it all the way up if you so desired. And as you pull that down there, it's going to reveal this part. So because of that, you're able to wiggle it off to the left and the right. And no matter what you do with it here, it's actually going to stay in there quite solidly. So if you don't have to have the legs standing straight up and down like the old school one, it's going to bend like this, and it's going to stay in place quite neatly. And you could also have them go off the other way if you wanted to Tony Chopper it. And if that's not enough for you, well, they'll go down 90 degrees, nothing more, but nonetheless, pretty interesting design. And there's some other cool details here, even though the play and the pause and stop aren't going to work, but you can have it fast forward and rewind, even though, yes, like the goggles, they do nothing. And on the back of the legs here, it'll be more fun when he's actually transformed. These are going to go up and down, and this will rotate ever so slightly, although not that smoothly. For the upper body here, you're able to rotate the waist around there if you want to, and the arms, same thing, you can go for an uppercut. And if you want to bring it back down, though, it's a lot more interesting. First of all, this swivel is going to be used for the transformation itself, but you can bring the whole arm up like this. You're going to get it over 90 degrees, I'd say 100 some there, and it's really cool because you can also keep the shoulder in its down position there while bringing the arm up here to 90 degrees. So really interesting that it can go parallel to the deck if you want it to be there. And you can also rotate this around here, a full 360, and the bend at the elbow, only 90 degrees, but hey, it's going in the right direction. That's always a good thing. And for the fingers here, something very familiar for gunpla builders. We've got a 3-finger trigger finger split there, and be careful, as I just shot off the actual trigger finger. And it looks like the thumb, not going to move. For the upper body here, you're able to take the head, and it's going to rotate all the way around if you wanted to do that, and he can actually have some cool poses looking up at the air to see the seekers coming in, and it'll go down if you wanted to make him look menacing, even though it's not quite like the Destron symbol. And how about over here, where in the old days you had this plugged into the back as a battery? It's going to go up and down here, and it can also pivot off and down, off left and right to the side, which we've all gotten used to, but because you can actually have it go up like that, you can actually have him do some pretty cool poses as he actually is looking where he's shooting, which is something new. But why buy the masterpiece, you may be asking? For this reason and this pose alone. Yes, Soundwave can hit his own eject button. For the concussion blaster, it's going to be a very snug fit there as you put it in hand. Then you can take the 3 fingers and bend those around there. They're also going to be snug. And then the trigger finger, it is going to sit out there a little bit strangely, but then again, it's going to line up perfectly with the forearm. And the 1980s could only laugh if there was a YouTube and people doing reviews to imagine the fact that, yes, there could be a posing section, and I suppose that it better well be in there for $200. Anyway, you'll have no problems getting the legs in interesting poses there, rock solid in terms of the flat foot test. You can do a lot of different things, and either way they're going to get there. Do whatever you want with that left arm there. You are only going to have the one weapon, but you can look down the barrel, no problem, and the fact that you can bring the shoulder weapon over as well. Everything is looking like a plus so far. I'm still just shocked that there's more than one pose for a Transformer, and by that I mean just sitting on the shelf. Nonetheless, the legs are hardly moved here, but the upper body, you can do some interesting things with it. You aren't going to be able to bring the concussion blaster across the body, because even though the shoulders do a good job of from the back, they're going to come back, but we've gotten used to Gundam shoulders going forward, so you can actually bring the weapons across the body. Not so much here, although because you do have the rotation here for the bicep, you can actually rotate it into place, although that's not thanks to the shoulder itself, but it does a good enough job. The fact that it's going to move in 2 places, up and up there, no problems. And the electric launcher, as long as you don't go smacking them in the head with it, it's still going to look pretty cool no matter what angle you set it at, which is a lot better than the old one, just rotating. But here's something I didn't want to see. Weight issues when you've only got that much weight in terms of the weapons. That's no good. And totally silly poses, yes again, compare it to this. Really, it's just fun for him to actually be able to move at all. That's going to wrap up my look at the robot mode here with lots of pluses, the main one being just the fact that you have more than one option and tons of playability if you want to go and count it all up. But the main point of playability for a Transformer has to be the transformation, so stick around to see him transformed into his device mode and back and forth. And don't forget, Condor is going to be turning into a cassette and hopping into that chest there. Anyway, everybody, why don't you let me know what you think of Soundwave in his robot mode? Thanks for watching. See ya. You know, I used to think incoms were cool, but cassettes? That's so much cooler to send out to attack.